Will we finally see help for Justin Fields? Sports Talk Chicago, here for Jon Zaghloul. In this video, we're going to break down the Bears' possible contract extension for Darnell Mooney and explain what it means for Justin Fields and the Bears moving forward. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, set up notifications so you don't miss a thing. We talk Chicago Bears daily. We also have guests, former Bears players, and Bears media members who come on this show every single week. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports, Facebook, Jon Zaghloul. Want to watch more of this show? Head on over to sportstalkchicago.com. I want to start today with this. Justin Fields needs help. We all know this. We've seen the toils and the perils that he and the Bears have gone through so far. Too many drop passes, too many momentum-killing drives because of said drop passes, and no safety blanket for Fields. Look, Mitch Trubisky had a safety blanket. Robinson. Nick Foles and Andy Dalton the same. Robinson and Darnell Mooney to an extent. And Fields, for the most part, at least last year, had Darnell Mooney, but this year he's kind of nowhere to be found. In order to properly develop and evaluate Justin Fields, we need to see him with some sort of weaponry. Now, we can still tell whether or not he's on the right track. We've seen mistakes from Fields. Even last game, the Bears let 14 points on the board because Fields could not convert in the red zone. That's a fact. But at the end of the game, Darnell Mooney dropped a touchdown pass. The Bears were still in the red zone and just couldn't convert. It was a team thing, also a Justin Fields thing. Everyone was to blame for that loss, right? Everybody had a part to play in losing that game. It was a concerted effort. Everybody did their role to make sure the Bears lost. Justin Fields needs help. Justin Fields needs receivers. Justin Fields needs weapons. Besides Darnell Mooney, to an extent, you've got Dante Pettis, Amir Smith-Marset, Velus Jones Jr., who I've said is a bust, Cole Kmet, who may be on his way out too. I mean, there's so many issues. So many holes. So many unsure guys and unsure fits for this offense and for Justin Fields moving forward. It's very hard to evaluate a quarterback when you have this wide receiving core around him. That offensive line too. So at least in the moment, we've seen some encouraging news. Some. Turns out the Bears and Darnell Mooney are in talks about a contract extension after the season. The report is this, officially. Quote, the Bears, Darnell Mooney, have significant interest in a contract extension. The Chicago Bears will have north of $100 million in salary cap space to work with for the 2023 season, and Poles is looking to bring back Darnell Mooney. The source is Matt Lombardo of Heavy.com. He said this, quote, multiple league sources told Heavy that the Bears and Mooney have significant mutual interest in getting an extension done. However, the Bears are not permitted to actually sign Mooney to a new deal until the conclusion of his third season, which is this year. So it looks as if the Bears are starting right at home base, and they're probably going to extend Darnell Mooney. Now, on the surface, I think it's a pretty sensible move. Darnell Mooney's been good for the Bears. I mean, this year he's had kind of a down year, and if this continues, I would really reconsider paying him this much money. But if he continues to get hot and gets better and better week by week and becomes Justin Fields' primary target again, I'd say pay him for sure. The big question, though, which this is going to reignite the debate, and I don't care, I'll be the first one to reignite it, is Darnell Mooney a WR1? Now, we had this debate all throughout the offseason, and last week, I think it culminated in us winning, us being. People are saying Darnell Mooney's not a WR1. He should have made that catch in the end zone near the end of the game. He didn't. Whether or not if it was a 50-50 ball, the fact is, if you are number one wide receiver, if you want to be paid the big bucks, make the play. So there's going to be a lot of debate about this. There's going to be a lot of arguments in the Bears community about this. How much should he get paid? How big of an asset is he really to Justin Fields? Is he a safety blanket? Do the Bears have to go and get another wide receiver just as good, if not better, than Darnell Mooney to reinforce the offense? Big questions here. I don't have an answer today, but here's what I do know. I like Darnell Mooney. I think he is solid. He is one of the best number 2 wide receivers in football. No question. But is he a number 1? Is he worth number 1 money? Well, the market dictate that he gets paid number 1 money even though he isn't a number 1, a.k.a. Christian Kirk. Getting paid $20 million even though he's always been a number 2, number 3 his whole life. So is it worth the Bears paying Darnell Mooney a similar salary? Wide receiver class is going to be somewhat open next year. There are going to be a lot of guys out there the Bears could be looking at. But see, here's the thing. The Bears are desperate for help right now. They need somebody to be there for Justin Fields, somebody to be the safety blanket, somebody to offer up continuity offensively, to be a real weapon for him. The only true weapon on this team offensively, wide receiver-wise, is Darnell Mooney. That's a fact, and you can't deny it. There's nobody else who's a real weapon for Justin Fields, nobody else who's a viable weapon. You could make the argument that Cole Kmet maybe racks up yards, or Velus Jones Jr. is explosive or electric, whatever the hell that means, but they haven't proven it. Darnell Mooney last year proved it, and this year, if he gets better, condition, if he gets better, he'll prove it again. Now, according to Spot Track, Mooney's current projected market value is $18.9 million per year, which is in line with the likes of Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, and Mike Williams. So the real question is Darnell Mooney a Mike Williams? Is Darnell Mooney a Terry McLaurin? Or is Darnell Mooney a DJ Moore? He's not Terry McLaurin, but he is a DJ Moore, I would say. He is a Mike Williams. So $18.9 million per year is fair to an extent. Still seems like a lot of money for one guy. A guy who only has 1,000-yard season. And a guy who has never been a WR1. But if that's going to be the going rate for WR2 wide receivers, then so be it. I don't have a huge problem paying that sum. The real question is going to be, is Darnell Mooney going to go by his true value, according to projections, or an inflated value? I'm not going to be happy if the Bears are paying him $22, $23 million per year as a wide receiver. Even if Mooney gets Christian Kirk money, I think that's kind of a ripoff. Darnell Mooney is who he is. He's a number 2 wide receiver, masquerading as a number 1 because the Bears have a lack of talent. That's okay. But don't pay him number 1 money just because he's the default number 1 wide receiver. There's a difference between earning being a WR1 and by default being a WR1. Darnell Mooney by default is a number 1 on the Bears. On any other team in the NFL, he'd be a number 2. Any other team. The Bears need a bona fide number 1 wide receiver. So if Darnell Mooney's going to demand WR1 money, that's where there could be a problem with this whole story. I want the Bears to re-sign Mooney. I think he's a very valuable asset, and he's the only productive asset on this team. I mean, nobody else is doing what he's doing. He certainly outweighs everybody else the Bears have offensively. That's a fact. So that's not the issue. The issue is going to be pay and long-term pay and what does he see himself as. And it's important to start this conversation now. That way nobody's going to be shocked come the offseason when Mooney asks for an outrageous number. Or the Bears lowball him too, which could very well be possible. I'd love for you to comment, tell me what you think. Is Darnell Mooney a WR1? Does he deserve to be paid WR1 money? My answer to both those questions is no. Darnell might think something different. You might think something different. But I'm here to tell you, statistically speaking, no, he's not. 1,000-yard season. He won't get there this year. I mean, at this rate, there's no way. He only has 17 catches. We're through 6 games. So that's not going to happen. So what is Darnell Mooney? He's only making 51.5% of his catches. Lowest of his career right now. 241 yards. That's a low point right now compared to last year. I caution everybody to be wary. This is not me hating on Darnell Mooney. This is not me saying the Bears shouldn't pay him or they should cut ties with him. Obviously, there's some sort of chemistry between him and Justin Fields. There is. And it would be stupid of the Bears to let him go or to play hardball with him when you know your quarterback wants him. And this could be a referendum on whether or not the Bears like Justin Fields, if Justin has any say in keeping his number one preferred target. That's another question we're going to be able to see as the year progresses and as the next offseason progresses. But in theory, that shows something. So do you extend Darnell Mooney for a high number? It's going to be a tough question. But the Bears and Mooney are in agreement, right? They have significant mutual interest, quote unquote, in getting an extension done. That's great. And I'm happy. I would hope they agreed a number that everybody's okay with. That's all I can say. But I do think it's important for the Bears to have some continuity offensively and to have somebody who works with Justin Fields and is his only weapon. Look, every other receiver, in my opinion, besides Mooney, to an extent, is expendable. Really. Velus Jones is expendable. Even though he's a rookie, he is expendable. Dante Pettis, certainly. Ihmir Smith-Marsette, certainly. All these guys are expendable. They could be cut tomorrow. Darnell Mooney's the only one who's proven and who's shown any value over the past couple of seasons and even to an extent this year. He's the only one worth fighting over. And if you're the Bears, your strategy this offseason has to be weaponry for Justin Fields. There's no other strategy you need to be following, because this crap-ass offense cannot be going out there next year looking the same with Justin Fields as your quarterback. You cannot evaluate him. We've talked about this. You can't evaluate Justin Fields with this mess around him. You can only evaluate him based on his mistakes. Leaving 14 points on the board, that's a mistake on him. But having balls being tipped or dropped or tipped and then intercepted or not being caught, that's a receiver issue for the most part. That's a receiver issue. It's a chemistry issue. It's a lack of talent issue. Frankly, it's a lack of talent. The Bears have a lack of talent offensively. Needs to change. And I would hope that Ryan Poles spends money on the wide receiver position, not just with Mooney, but with other players who could be hitting the market. That said, you love to have continuity, right? Want to have guys who Fields is comfortable with, who know the system, who know Fields personally and like him. Darnell Mooney and Justin Fields have a connection. It's been proven. Everybody knows about it, so don't break it up. But my word of wisdom to the Bears and to Mooney and to everybody watching: don't be greedy on both sides. The Bears better not lowball him, and Darnell Mooney better not highball them. Meet in the middle at a spot where everybody agrees. Darnell Mooney is not a number one wide receiver. Don't let anybody tell you that. He's a number two. So he should be paid number two money, which, according to Spot Track, they're pretty accurate. It's around $19 million per year. And even that, to me, is inflated, but, I mean, with Christian Kirk getting 20, that kind of reset the market a bit. It's a lot of money. So Darnell Mooney better prove it, too. And I will say this again. If Darnell Mooney continues on the trend he's on right now, if he continues to regress, if he's not catching the football and he's not being targeted and he's not going to get 1,000 yards, we may have to have a serious discussion about whether or not the Bears should keep him. That's a fact. So this isn't set in stone. We could see a new report at the end of the year saying something completely different if Mooney cannot perform. He has to stay at his rate from last year. And if he does, the Bears will pay him fairly for what he's worth and what he truly is. Yes, Darnell Mooney is a number two wide receiver. He might be a number one by default, but that doesn't mean he should be paid number one money. He's a number one by default, not a number one by talent or by earning it. I mean, when your competition is Dante Pettis and Velus Jones and Ihmir Smith-Marsette, yes, you're a default number one. You don't have to beat them out to be a number one. You just are the number one. But on any other team, you'd be a number two. So just keep all that in mind. Don't want to overthink it per se, but we need to make sure we know what he's worth and what the truth should be come negotiation time. We can't feed into a false narrative. We can't say Mooney's in the right for asking for $25 million, for example. Critique with context. evaluate based on truth, not feelings. In Darnell Mooney's case, he'd be deserving of $19 million per year. He'd be considered a WR2, and he would help out the Bears and Justin Fields long term. But if you hear anything contrary to that, it's worth taking a second look. Thanks for watching today's show here at BPON TV, channel 59.3 in Roku. Really appreciate the time. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports, Facebook, Jon Zaghloul. Want to watch more of this show? Head on over to sportstalkchicago.com. So long, everyone.